Just a little bit of Wyckoff Police. So my name is Dave Murphy. I've been Wyckoff Police about 26 years now. I started in 1995 as a dispatcher, hired as a police officer in 96. As you see the other gentleman to my right with the grayer hair, has been here a little bit longer than me, but he'll give you a little talk shortly. But we're a department of 26 officers. We have 2 detectives. The 2 gentlemen to my right are our lieutenants, our admin staff, and then the rest are sergeants and patrol officers. They work a 24/7 schedule, obviously 365 days. Every day we're here for your whatever you may need. They work a 12-hour schedule, and they could take a variety of calls. If you think about any time you ever have any problem, the first call you're making is to the police department. So you're always going to get a police officer no matter what you're calling for, and that's going to be the first one to come to your house. Police, fire, emergency, medical emergency, whatever you need for that, you're going to get one of us first to help you with your problem. Each one of these gentlemen I brought with me today are specialists in their own area. So I'm going to let them talk a little bit about themselves, what they do, and then open it up to questions and answers. Because it's kind of good for you. It's kind of your captive audience right now. You have the best of what we have to offer from our department here. So ask away, whatever, those thoughts you've been thinking about or things you have questions about. We're having conversations before about, events we've seen in Wyckoff, and we got some answers. So whatever you need, we're here for you. So I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Soto first, and he can touch base.
Right here. Good morning. Thank you for having us here. Let's trip myself up here. Yeah, that'll be great. Throw a hip out or something. So as Chief Irby said, I'm Lieutenant Soto. I've been with the Wyckoff Police Department since 1994. Once one of our officers who's retiring then this month is retired, I'll have the dubious distinction of being the oldest officer in the department, not only age-wise, but time-wise. So maybe time for me to think about going. No, I want to check with my coworkers because sometimes you feel a foot in your back pushing out the door. Again, I started in 1994 in the police department. I started in the patrol division. Very early in my career, I got involved with the DARE program. I did DARE for many, many years with the juveniles in Wyckoff. I was in Eisenhower School, St. Elizabeth School, Easton Christian School. Had a great relationship, got involved with the Municipal Alliance, got involved with the school PTOs, had a great relationship with the schools. Worked my way into the Detective Bureau, where I spent about 14 years working a variety of cases, criminal investigations, juvenile issues. Left that in 2017 to get promoted to lieutenant to the admin staff, where I am now in charge of overseeing our patrol division, our detective division, and our traffic division. So they report to me. Lieutenant Kasek and I kind of overlap a lot of things we do, but those are my primary functions, as well as scheduling the entire department, which we're a department of 26 officers. It doesn't seem a lot, but when you have 26 officers working a rotating schedule and training and holidays and vacations, sometimes it's an insurmountable task to make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be and when they're supposed to be. So keeping the freight train running smoothly, so to speak. I don't know what to tell you about myself. I'm married, have 4 kids. So, I can dye my hair back a different color if somebody would like me to. What? Anybody have any questions for me? No? Yes, sir.
How many officers do you have to have on the clock at any given time?
Good question. Great question. So we have 4 patrol squads of 5 officers each. So we can have as many as 5 officers. I'm talking about police cars patrolling the township, but our minimum is 3. So we'll never have less than 3 patrol officers on patrol at any given time. And ideally, we like to have 4 or 5, but obviously officers have to be allowed to take their time off as well. So, and that includes every squad has a patrol sergeant, and then 4 patrol officers underneath them. Many of those officers are what we call OIC, or officer in charge status, meaning they have 5 years or more experience, so they too can run a shift if need be.
And as far as the hurricane that we all just made it through, that hurricane that we all made it through, what did you guys? I mean, because nobody was expecting what we had, so I imagine it was all hands on deck at that point, or how did you do that?
Not really all hands on deck. So the squad that was working that night, they were tasked with taking a lot of calls. We had a tremendous flooding issue on 208 with cars floating on the highway. We had water rescues. We had people trapped in cars, and I believe we may have had 3 or 4 officers working that night. I believe a couple more came in to assist, but again, when you're the patrol squad, no matter what the weather is, you got to deal with what comes your way, whether it's a weather event, some type of emergency. Thankfully, we have a great mutual aid program. We work well with all of our surrounding agencies. with Chief Murphy and all the other local chiefs. We have a great relationship. We call and, we'll get Franklin Lakes, North Haledon, Midland Park, Waldwick, Mahwah, whoever it may be, they come assist us. And likewise, we assist them as needed. So there's always the mutual aid to assist us when we need that. Yes, sir. There's always juvenile issues. Social media is always a big concern. We always get calls from the schools, and Sergeant Ragucci, our juvenile officer, can talk a little bit more about that. Schools are always calling us. We have a great relationship with the schools, saying, social media is a problem, and we deal with that. It's very time consuming, and often it's very difficult because obviously you're dealing with juveniles, you're dealing with parents, you're dealing with schools, you're dealing with the community. I'm sure you're all familiar with the incident not too long ago with the young lady riding a donkey up Abbott's farm. Again, on its surface seemed not to be the biggest deal, but for, again, our detectives, it consumed a lot of time, a lot of interviews. And, so things like that. We deal with a lot of family issues. I like to say, as the police department, we're the keepers of the town secrets. We probably know, collaboratively, we know more things about people in this township than anybody else knows, and would probably make a lot of head spin. Obviously, we keep that all, confidential, but we are the keepers of the township secrets. We go to houses when there's family matters, marital matters, children matters, whatever it may be. Unfortunately, we're there for good times for families, and we're there for bad times. We've been there for births. We've been there for deaths. We do everything, run the gamut. Anyone else? All right, I'll turn the mic over to Lieutenant Kasak, let him speak a few words. And if anybody has any questions for me, just let me know. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Kevin Kasak. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting us and giving us this opportunity. I'm probably the youngest out of the bunch, but I've been with the Wyckoff Police Department for 18 years. I started, like the chief, for a year as a dispatcher prior to us transferring services up to the county when we actually had and retained our own dispatch center. So it was a good opportunity for me to kind of learn the ropes and get my feet wet that way. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to be a bicycle safety officer. I was in charge of crossing guards. I was also a field training officer, had my hands in motor vehicle accidents through town prior to us having a traffic bureau. And I was also fortunate enough to work for 3.5 years in the detective bureau alongside Sergeant Ragucci prior to getting promoted. So we had also, like Lieutenant Soto, handled a large amount of investigations, missing persons, and various crimes throughout town. Currently, I serve as the administrative lieutenant in charge of training, records, OPRA, vehicle maintenance, and various IT departments, computers, technology, as well as body cams, which are on the way to coming, in-car service cameras. So pretty much it. 40 years old, have 3 children, live in a neighboring town, happily married, and that's it. So she would like to hear that. So any questions for me personally, or?
What is Oprah? I'm assuming it's not.
No, and well, not to be too verbose, but it takes up a large portion of amount of time. It's not the glamorous portion of records management or the police department, but it's certainly a necessary function, and it's increasing throughout the state. Stands for Open Public Records Act, and it's a way for anybody in the public to obtain any documents or records that we handle or manage. But complete transparency, and it's the way it should be. Like Lieutenant Soto mentioned, we're kind of the gatekeepers to all the secrets in town. There are protections and limits within OPRA. So again, we had to receive training on what can be and what can't be provided and what needs to be redacted to protect people's interests and privacy. Obviously, there's medical exemptions, domestic violence records, criminal investigatory things that could jeopardize an investigation cannot be released. So it's always changing, and obviously the courts are deciding what can and can't be released, but we get a large number of requests throughout the year for all the documents and type of things we handle, as well as electronic in-car cameras, body cameras. Those have to be released with redactions as well. So it's going to be a lot coming. New Jersey just implemented they've extended it, but within the next year, every police officer in the state of New Jersey will be required to wear and operate a body camera while on duty, as well as off duty directing traffic. So you can imagine there's a large amount of storage that comes with that and a lot of video that's retained. And we have to be careful on what's given out and what's not given out on various thresholds. So
Now, personally, you find it a plus to have the body cams or a nuisance?
We actually don't have them yet. They're on order.
What's the feeling amongst the officers?
Absolutely. We've had car cameras. I've experienced having in-car cameras. The technology's changed. It used to be a VHS tape in the trunk that got changed after 2 hours. They went to CDs that were held a couple hours of storage, depending on the quality of video, to now they upload automatically to a server when we pull in the back of headquarters. I always believe it's better in the interest of transparency. Not only does it protect the public, but it protects us as officers having that video rolling 24/7. First thing we're taught as police officers in the academy is integrity. So whether we're being recorded or not, we kind of always have to act in accordance of, the laws that we're provided to withhold. And again, it's only something, in my opinion, that could help officers in the course of their duties. So I'm excited to have them. I think it'll, prevent frivolous complaints or lawsuits, and it'll make our job. One of the other functions I serve is supervisor of internal affairs. So again, if we get frivolous complaints, which there have been, it's an easy way for us to go to the videotape, as Warner Wolf once said. So that's it. Good question. All right, I'll turn it over. Yes, sir.
How do you guys link up with like the county, the state police, FBI, and all those guys? How does that work? How do you link up?
Sure. So obviously there's a number of law enforcement agencies available to the public. We're the first, stopping grounds for residents in a town like this, municipal police officers. There used to be the county police, which now got disbanded and merged with the sheriff's department. That's probably your next level. We use them for a number of resources. They have, drug sniffing dogs, bomb sniffing dogs available to us. There's also a large number of resources that they have, bomb squads. They have a mobile command unit that comes out. The prosecutor's office is probably the next threshold. A number of resources, specialized units within their detective bureau, from homicide unit, missing persons, computer crimes. So we use them, and the detective bureau is almost regular on speed dial to confer and work with them on larger cases. And then state police is always at a resource as well. They have, again, with larger departments, they have more resources available to them. Where, as the chief said, a department of 26 officers. When you're dealing with the state police, they have jurisdiction statewide, much larger agency, and a lot more resources. So we've used them on missing persons cases, even recently. So to answer your question, it works well. With technology, it's always easy to get in touch now via email or via the computer. So, all right, I'm going to turn it over to Detective Sergeant Mike Ragucci.
Morning. Thanks again for having us. Mike Ragucci, currently assigned to our detective bureau as a sergeant in the detective bureau. I've been with the department since 1999, 2000, and prior to that served as we all do, as we started out in patrol, ultimately got promoted to a position as a patrol sergeant, and now in the detective bureau. Like the gentleman before said, the detectives are responsible for pretty much any criminal matter that comes to the attention of any patrol officer. We investigate any, or at least vet any crime that comes in. And again, like Bill said, if there's a situation where it's better handled by another jurisdiction, whether that be above us or outside of Wyckoff, which sometimes happens, we're the ones that will kind of figure out who best would serve the resident and send them there or refer them to them. And then as the lieutenant said, we handle any juvenile matter, whether that be coming in directly from patrol or referred to us from the school or another agency. So yeah, we're like my partner, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, and I are the crime experts, so to speak. Although I wouldn't say that literally, but we're the ones that handle crimes in the township. So if you have any questions relevant to that, by all means, that's what I'm here for. Yes, ma'am.
This may be a stupid question.
Never.
Is there a lot going on that we don't know about?
No. There's a lot going on that you do know about, because again, there's no us keeping secrets from you, and we can release information to you to educate you about things that are happening in town. That's probably a huge part of our job, and it makes everybody's life a lot easier, right? It potentially prevents you from being a victim, and then helps us, because the less victims, the less casework. No, look, scams and frauds are pretty prevalent all the time. I would say right now, the primary one we're dealing with a lot is fraudulent unemployment claims, where somebody will get a notice from the state of New Jersey saying, we've received your application for unemployment benefits. And, if you've been working, thankfully, all during COVID and whatnot. And again, that's only really prevalent now because there's been a lot of people, unfortunately, not working because of COVID-19. It's one of those things where we're kind of making reports to protect that person from additional fraud, and we could pass some information on to them how to protect them and check accounts and make sure that their social security number hasn't been further compromised stuff. Fortunately for us, the state has kind of a two-step verification process where that person's employer will also be notified that employment benefits have been applied for. So if the victim, so to speak, doesn't catch it, thankfully, a lot of times the employer catches it and sends back a notice to the state saying, Mr. and Mrs. Smith is still employed. They're not really eligible for unemployment benefits, but that's the big one right now. Look, frauds that's the one thing to really watch out for. If you get something suspicious in the mail or phone calls or emails, vet, really kind of pay attention to what they're asking, really pay attention to the address line, pay attention to everything that's coming your way. And then look, everything we do is on the reasonable standard, right? Is it reasonable that somebody who you've never corresponded before is either offering you money or asking for money, right? Probably not, right? So we kind of go by the reasonable standard. If it doesn't sound like something you normally would see, it's probably something worth looking into, and as yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Sometimes I get calls from not like the local police department. They get calls, you get calls and say, would you give to?
Yep. I know where you're going.
It's not even, it's not the police.
Right.
Association.
Sure.
To the mic.
So, I know probably other people have gotten it too.
Right.
And, I always say, well, I like to give to my local police.
Right.
And then then I hang up and I go, well, I'm really sorry that I said that. On the other hand, I don't know how I would vet that particular.
Right. Yeah. And I would recommend the same thing. I could tell you no New Jersey State PBA local. And I can only speak for the PBAs because we're in the PBA, we're not in the FOP. So I don't know exactly how they do things, but I can tell you there's not a single New Jersey State PBA local that does phone in solicitations, right? We're permitted to do, I think we're permitted to do 2. We do 1 mailing a year. You all get that to your residents, right? And I don't think the state allows locals to even do more than 2. Nobody will do phone calls.
Yeah. Sometimes I will say, they say, well, would you pledge? I said, will you send it to me in the mail?
Correct.
Because then you can vet it, you can look it up or whatever.
Right.
But I never get it. So,
right. And that's
they're just trying to get my money. And it's not fair to the police.
Sure.
That you want to support the policemen.
Yeah. I would recommend the same thing. If anybody can make up a website, right? So asking to while they're on the phone with them, going and looking them up, that's not necessarily going to prove or disprove anything. And it could be a legitimate organization, who knows? But,
I know that's,
most places are not going to take the overhead to create mailings to send to potential fraud victims. So that's a very smart idea. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I had the IRS call me personally already.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen.
No,
but they are good at it.
Yeah. Again,
Because I'm listening to the guy and I'm like, are you done? The IRS doesn't call people. I hung up on him.
No, the IRS, the state and federal government certainly are not making phone calls. That's either going to be via mail or, depending on the circumstances, a federal agent's going to show up at your house. But that's not really happening either. But you're right. Right. Yeah, you're going to know if a federal agent shows up at your house. You probably knew you were going to get a visit from them at some point in time in your life. Yes, sir. You had a question?
Just to be clear, one of the first things I've been told we do is if there's a fraud and it's an electronic fraud,
right?
It's serious enough. I should come in to you guys and say, hey, I think there's a crime going on here, or something like, is that true?
Yeah, look, we would always encourage you to always notify us of everything that you get via, any fraudulent activity, any of your bank accounts, notify us. At the very least, we'll document that you came in and that, you've been, your bank account's been compromised in some way or another, or something to that effect. Some of them, to be very honest with you, are really not investigatable, right? For a couple of reasons. Once you get made whole by the bank is now the victim. They're not always the most cooperative organizations with providing us information, right? And then even if that's not the case and we subpoena information, if the suspect information, if information we're getting back kind of leads us to believe that the suspect is way outside of our jurisdiction, another state, another country, we're kind of our jurisdiction's limited to this general area, and I can't necessarily force a federal agency to take your case. So, but absolutely, if anytime you have anything come on your bank account that is at all fraudulent, and I'm not talking about disputes with a vendor, but bona fide, I did not make this charge, report it to us. At the very least, we make a computer entry stating Mr. Smith came in. I know you're not Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith came in and reported that this activity was on his account. It protects you should that there be further problems, or if your name now gets associated with a credit issue, right? Which like an identity theft issue where somebody opens accounts in your name and social security number, charge a whole bunch of, services and goods, doesn't pay the bill. And now all of a sudden you have creditors coming after you. At least you could say, no. As soon as I noticed it on September 16th, I came into the Wyckoff police and reported it. So we always recommend that. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
How do you study to be a detective? How do you learn the interview techniques and the research tech? Is there a special track for that?
Yeah. So the Bergen County Police Academy, we all take, I guess, for lack of a better word, continuing education credits as we go throughout. When we get out of the academy, 5 or 6 months long. Field training is a few months after that, and then there's a host of classes provided at the county level for a whole bunch of things, right? And then as you kind of a few years on, you start to know what you have an interest in and what you don't. I've been fortunate enough that I've been allowed to kind of do this, right, which I've always had an interest in. So there's interview and interrogation classes you can go to. There's classes on crime scene preservation and evidence collection and firearm seizure. I mean, there's classes that we take that run the gamut. And then as you get to be a little bit more senior, and maybe your boss is at the time, and you kind of see that, all right, he or she has an interest in something, you can kind of tailor what classes you take, on top of the mandatory stuff we have to take all year, which is frankly endless. If that answered your question. And then look, a lot of it comes in time and practice. I've been in the bureau since 2016. So like any other position, the more you do things, the more accustomed you are to, well, this didn't work last time, we'll try something else. And, in time, you kind of learn the tricks and the trades a little bit. Thank you very much. Sarge?
Thank you. Morning. Thank you for having us. Introduce myself, Sergeant Brian Zivkovich. I've been with the police department now, just starting my 20th year. Got hired as a dispatcher, had a short stint with the Midland Park Police Department for 9 months before transferring to Wyckoff and starting here. Patrolman for a little bit, then got promoted. And then in 2017, Chief Murphy put me in charge of the Wyckoff Department Traffic Bureau. That's where my specialty is, where I've attended, like Sergeant Ragucci just said, many in-service classes regarding traffic reconstruction, accident reconstruction, kind of put puzzle pieces together. Why did something happen? Why did this accident happen? It also helps with sound cliche, there's 3 E's that we follow in the traffic world: education, enforcement, and engineering. The education part is coming here, speaking to you guys, letting you know what's going on in town. The enforcement aspect is us out there running radar, pulling people over for any type of traffic violations. And then engineering is taking that data that we've collected, working with the state, local, county officials to make the roads safer for everybody. We have to follow federal mandates in order to do certain things. Everybody usually thinks they have a good idea. They want speed bumps, they want this, they want that, but we have to take a really good look at it and see what's best overall for the township and the residents. I've been a member of the prosecutor's office, Bergen County Prosecutor's Office Fatal Investigation Unit for 7 years. I go on call every 3 months and we are in charge of investigating any serious or fatal motor vehicle accident within Bergen County. That's where that specialized training comes in. We're able to put puzzle pieces together and say this person was speeding, this person was paying attention, this person was on their cell phone. Mostly what we deal with now in September is we're back to school. So I've been working closely with the schools, trying to improve our overall safety. And you'll see that as you go through town. We've just, with the help of the township committee, we purchased new speed signs, which you see on various streets, flashing pedestrian crossing signs throughout the school zones. More are coming, and we just, with technology these days, there's so much out there that we can do to make things safer. And if you guys have any questions, concerns, I'd be more than happy to.
The plastic stanchions that are arranged around the roads here,
There's a whole bunch through town, yes, sir.
is that something that you deem as to where to put them, or is that?
Well, we'll break it down. There's actually, the two that I'm thinking of are the plastic yellow ones, pedestrian crossing signs that you see at every crosswalk. The red ones are more to give visibility to, hey, as a driver, we're approaching an intersection, let's be aware of our surroundings. Peripheral vision, looking left and right. New Jersey state law mandates that you stop for a pedestrian when safe. Obviously, you're not going to jam on your brakes and put yourself in a risk to have an accident, but it's more of awareness. As you drive around town, you see they're kind of more of targets sometimes because, trucks, bad driving, people hit them, and, we replace them as can be. If right outside here, you'll have two. Center of town is mostly where we concentrate on our pedestrian effort, where we put the signs actually in the middle, right at the crosswalk. That, again, is just the visibility, a reminder to comply with that state law to yield for pedestrians. But they're, again, we follow federal, local, state mandates. They're allowed to be in there. And, we do what we can to bring awareness. And we have a pretty good track record. We haven't had any pedestrian fatalities with the past 3 years. It does happen. And, we'll continue to do work, like I said, with the local, state, county officials to make things much better for everybody involved. Tom.
Yeah, you mentioned when you plan.
Mentioned a couple of things that have been going on the last couple of years with the speed calming signs.
Yeah.
Also the crosswalks near the schools, the light up. Can you just give us a feel of how you feel as a traffic officer, the whole town, that's impacting things, improvement, about the same, awareness, or
Yeah.
whatever?
We started with the school zones, and we want to build our way out into the community. Nothing more important than getting our kids to school, getting our parents there to school safe. We have county roads and local roads that we've decided to apply these technology efforts to. So we've installed, you'll see at all 4 elementary schools, you'll see a flashing pedestrian crossing sign. Pedestrian walks up, touches it, flashes, gives, again, visual warning to people that are approaching, stop for the pedestrian. We've also put in these solar mounted speed signs, which again gives a awareness to how fast you're going. We all go down Monroe Ave, it's a 25-mile-an-hour road. We all don't go 25 miles an hour. We all know that. I'm not, but you see it, you see the red light, you slow down. It gains compliance for you guys to bring awareness that, hey, let me slow down. And that's where the educational aspect comes in. The next one would be the enforcement, where we are running radar. We'll be in driveways, we'll be in certain parts of town running radar, and you're going to get pulled over and you're going to be issued a summons if you're within that, a severe violation. We'll use our discretion. We rather educate than give summonses, but summonses are given throughout this town to, persistent violators. And we're continuing to work, with the township committee. We have 4 new radar signs that are going to be going up within the next month, and an additional 6 pedestrian crossing signs, all at various locations that we look at that are data driven and said, this is where they need to go to make it safer. Go ahead.
Sergeant Brian.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming. Each one of you, thank you for sharing all that information. Really appreciate you taking time from your
Thank you.
busy schedule to come here and to share with our club. I've never walked a mile in your shoes. I've never been in law enforcement. So I'm curious, what do you do to not lose hope in humanity? And how do you maintain a healthy standard of mental and emotional health?
All right. So I'll start and then I'm going to pass off the mic. Yeah. I wouldn't be in this job if I didn't love it. It's what I went to school for. I have no past experience with law enforcement, neither does my family, which is usually the way people get involved. But when I went to Marist College, I fell in love with the criminal justice field through just education. I said, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to give back. It sounds silly, but I wanted to give back. Born and raised in town. We live over in the Knowles section. I love my community. I just get involved. I don't try and take things personally. And I'm there to help you guys. We see each other, I think like Lieutenant Soto or Lieutenant Kasek said, we see the good and we see the bad. And we have our own ways of dealing with it. And, you know, we have resiliency officers that we could talk to if we have a problem. There are outreaches for law enforcement to get involved. You know, that's all personal, confidential, but you know, it's just, you can't take the job personally. I love coming to work every day. Everything's different every day. I've never met, I know some of you, but you know, new people that I've met today. You know, I look forward to seeing you out in the community, you know, calling, reaching out, talking. And it's just, I think it's just my personality. I love it. And I have no problem, you know, I have a bad day, I have a bad day, but I get up the next morning, put on the uniform and come do my job.
Lee Parker did have a question for you guys. He's on Zoom. Go ahead, Lee.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's more of a comment. I just wanted to thank Chief Murphy and his crew. His team does a great job. And having been a resident here for 25, 26 years, business owner, parent, hear me? Is that coming?
I saw,
Okay, go ahead, Ray.
oh, meeting over.
On traffic, what is the most dangerous intersection in town? And when do you decide when you need a traffic light in certain areas?
I don't think we have, I'm not going to pinpoint a most dangerous intersection. We have intersections that are county, state, local, and good working relationships with local engineering. That's meaning municipal roadways that Wyckoff kind of has a say on what we can do and can't do, obviously within the standard.
More, eat. Go ahead.
I also have a good time of day, speed control. They'll come out, they'll do timing, they'll do they'll do all sorts of studies in order to meet that standard or to show that that standard doesn't exist for the improvement.
Go. Eat.
Lee, go ahead with your question.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Real quick, I just wanted to thank Chief Murphy and his team for coming today. As a longtime resident, business owner, parent, local volunteer, I appreciate efforts that they always bring to our town every day. Someone had mentioned the word integrity earlier in the conversation, and we see that every day from what they do. They're visible, and sometimes the most important thing is when they're not visible, they're doing a great job supporting the safety of our town. And I just wanted to say how much I appreciate what they do every day and anything that we can do. I think them coming today, just enlightening our group on what they do and how they do it is great. And anything else that we can do to help support them, always keep us in the loop for what that can be. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Lee. to finish up what you said, how do we determine where a traffic light goes? It depends where the intersection is. And again, that's everything traffic related is data driven. Accidents, time of day, traffic count. And it's studied either locally by myself, the town engineer, or at the county level, county engineer, state engineer, and the determination. We have to look at the impact. If we just throw something up errantly, that's going to have a impact somewhere else. If I put a traffic light somewhere where it shouldn't be, now is it creating a problem on a side street? Is it creating a problem in a neighborhood that once didn't have something? So there's a whole bunch of, like I said, standards that we look at before we make the decision. Like anything else, everybody wants something really fast. In my world, I can do it as fast as I can, but I want to do it the right way. I want to make sure, again, not to create another issue that now, that I created, as I solved another one. Yep.
And then, sorry, one second. Can you repeat the question he asked you so that they can hear it on?
I'll go moderate it. Come here.
All right. So we're done with mics. All right. The question I consistently get is all about Boulder Run. How come you can take the left-hand turn into Boulder Run? It's always a mess there. And then the next intersection, which is right up here by Dairy Queen, that's a mess as well. And of course, I always say, well, those are county roads. So with that in mind, I just teed it up for you. Could you comment on the challenges you have there and being county roads?
Anything county roads, we would have to make the recommendation to the county engineer's office. We'd have to state our complaint exactly what it is. And then they would do they would first request a 3-year accident investigation. Again, to sound repetitive, everything's data driven. They want to look at how many accidents, what caused the accidents, what is the complaint, and if the county makes the change, will it improve it overall? Yours would be, I don't want to say quite difficult. It would probably be a little bit of a challenge because then we're going to take into account, the county and the time frame of when they're going to get stuff done. Is there really something there? What we see a lot at those intersections is just the congestion problem. Town's a lot busier now than it has, but it's been in years. A lot of young families are moving in, so that's what we see, a lot of distractions, cell phones. We take a look at things, and I don't know the right answer for that one, Tom, but it's something that we can go look at and approach the county, but also have to look at it as now working with the property owners of Boulder Run and Dairy Queen. Are we going to limit their business? Are we going to do something that they don't want? Because there have been situations like that where turns have been prohibited into certain businesses, and property owners and business owners get all upset and try and get involved and object, and then it goes into the courts, and then that's out of our hands. It goes to the county level, out of Wyckoff's hands. So. Yes, sir.
So what if you had a genie wish, what would your wish be granted? What's your biggest need? What would you like to see that you don't have already? Resources or otherwise?
We do a great job with what we have. I mean, obviously, I wish we could have, equipment is always the greatest thing. Speed trailer, technology, that in a perfect world, yeah, that'd be great. But we, as a 26-man department, we do great with our training. We have the support of the admin staff from Chief Murphy down, the township committee, and we get things done. Like I said, equipment would be great, but we're very fortunate where we are and what we have and what we use already.
There's two quick things I neglected to mention before. And I know this is Millen Park, Wyckoff, so it'll kind of go for both. So we don't dispatch ourselves any longer. I think we're in our 8th or 9th year right now. We went to county communications dispatch. So when you call 911 or you call 891-212 or 444-2300 for Millen Park Police, you get your phone calls answered in Mawa at a communications center. So I know a lot of times people call us, I spoke to your officer yesterday, he was mean, or, he was very nice to me. And I'm like, folks, I'm sorry, he's not our employee, we address it. But, unfortunately, over the years that gets lost. Like when we first joined the county communications, it was publicized, everybody knew about it. But over time, new people move in, everybody forgets certain things. So I just want to make sure everybody kind of knows that when you call us, you're not speaking to it directly to one of our officers, as you did years ago. And if you're thinking about the 3 or 4 of us out of the 5 of us, we're dispatchers in Wyckoff. We're kind of like we're the farm team prior to getting hired as police officers. But just so you're aware, that you'll get that communication center, not us. Ultimately you'll get us. Obviously, it's us coming to your house, or we'll call you back if you need to speak to that officer directly. But that's for both towns. So just so you're aware of that. And then the second most important thing is, and he's a little humble on it, but Detective Sergeant Rigucci neglected to mention, we're an accredited agency. So every 3 years we get audited by an outside agency. They come in, they go over our policies, our vehicles, our equipment, or everything we do within policing is scrutinized by an outside agency. And I'm happy to say we're just into our second accreditation period right now. Mike and I have to go testify before the board probably the next month or so. And we should be good with that for another 3 years, which is great for us. It allows all our policies to be up to today's standards, the best practices in law enforcement. To your point earlier, it addresses resiliency now, which is a major shift in policing that I've never seen in 20 something years. But that's where we are now. It also takes us, into the future with technology. There's standards that we have to have now. I know Lieutenant Soto and I will joke about it, but when we kind of got into this admin world, some of the old policies we had were still in pen and paper. Were done by chiefs that have passed away over the course of years. So in our field, and we're seeing it a lot now, everything changes so rapidly. I mean, we joked about it before, but the amount of training that we go to now, it is hard. I will say from an admin side, it's hard to put officers on the street because they have to be inside on the computer. They have to be training. There's classes. We just came now to that resiliency. Each officer has to do a 4-day mandatory class, 4-day consecutive mandatory class right now. So we have to schedule that. We have to, they're not on the road for that time. So there's a lot of challenges that we have now, all to a better end. I mean, a much more educated officer is a much more educated officer for the town, for everyone, for all of us, for the department. But in order to get to that, there's a lot of work that has to go into that now. And these officers do it great. So they're humble on certain things. Like I said, they wouldn't be here today if they weren't the best of what our department has to offer. So we just I know we're probably running a little short on your time, but we just wanted to thank you very much for allowing us to come today. Mr. Madigan, thank you for letting us come to speak to you. I know Detective Sergeant Rigucci said it earlier. When we come to speak to you today, it answers a lot of questions. You now can take that information in other conversations you have with people and spread it even further. So it's great to have that interaction with the community and the transparency. I think that's kind of what we're all about. And we're obviously here 24/7. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to call us. Really don't. I mean, a lot of times we get, I don't want to bother you. You're not bothering us. We're here. And that's what we're here for you. Without you, we wouldn't have anything to do. So please call us for what you need. And again, thank you very much for allowing us this time.